What's up everyone? Welcome back. Today, let's dive into some shocking news that Yuri Prochazka shared with Joe Rogan. Prochazka added another big win to his career at UFC 311, defeating Jamahal Hill. But it turns out the former light heavyweight champ made a serious mistake before the fight, one that could have been way worse for him. Before we get into it, don't forget to hit that like button to support the video. As many of you expected, Prochazka and Hill had a brutal battle at UFC 311. Prochazka ended up finishing Hill with a series of punches in round 3. It was a huge win for him, keeping him at the top of the 205-pound rankings, especially after his tough loss to Alex Pereira last year. Recently, the eccentric fighter was a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast. While talking about his win, it will be interesting to see what's next for the talented Czech fighter, especially since he's already lost to Pereira twice. If Pereira is still the champion, it might take Prochazka a while to get another shot at the title. But who would you like to see Prochazka face next? It wasn't that long ago when Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira had one of the most intense rivalries in all of combat sports. But now, after battling each other 4 times, it's clear that the two have moved past their feud. In fact, the two have even talked about the possibility of training together. After Pereira's jaw-dropping knockout loss to Adesanya in 2023, marking the first time Izzy beat Poatan, Adesanya said he'd be open to training with his former rival. Ahead of Adesanya's upcoming fight with Nazim Sadikov next weekend at UFC Saudi Arabia, he spoke with MMA Fighting about the idea of working with Pereira in the future. Here's what he had to say. "Yeah, definitely down the road. Me and Alex have already said I got what I wanted from that fight. I think the MMA world just gets greedy and tries to ruin a good thing because they want more, never knowing when to quit. That's why you shouldn't gamble. But yeah, eventually it will happen, but right now, it's not that time. He lives so far away the opportunity just hasn't come up yet. We've still got guys like Carlos Ulberg in the trenches, working hard and getting ready for his next fight so he can be the #1 contender. I'll always respect Poatan. He's a guy we already understand each other, and we've already shared this with each other. So, yeah, it'll happen one day, who knows when." As of now, it doesn't seem like Adesanya and Pereira will cross paths again, which leaves the door open for them to train together. The last stylebender has mentioned that he plans to focus on middleweight, but if Ulberg continues on his path to a title shot, it could delay any potential training sessions between Izzy and Pereira. Of course, that would also depend on Pereira staying at the top of the 205-pound division. Pereira is set to face Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 313 on March 8th. His team has even shared footage of him training hard for that fight. Who are you picking to win the highly anticipated Pereira vs Ankalaev fight? Let's talk about Merab Dvalishvili, who recently handed Umar Nurmagomedov his first loss. There's been a lot of buzz lately about whether anyone on the UFC roster has what it takes to stop this relentless grappling machine. Well, Corey Sandhagen believes his skills and style could be exactly what's needed to take down the bantamweight champ. Before the pay-per-view event, many people thought Nurmagomedov had the chance to end Dvalishvili's reign. While the fight was close, the Georgian fighter did enough to keep his bantamweight title. Since Merab has already defeated several of the UFC's top contenders, the question now is, who poses a real threat to his dominance? In a recent interview with SiriusXM, Corey Sandhagen made it clear that he believes he's the one who could get the job done. Here's what he said. "I'm not trying to be clickbaity, but I do think I have the style to beat Merab. You can say whatever you want about my style, but I truly believe I have some of the best footwork in the sport. I can create space better than anyone. I think I have what it takes to beat Dvalishvili." In a recent YouTube video, Sandhagen also explained why he thinks his style would give Merab trouble. He said, "Styles make fights, right? I think if you're going to fight against Merab, you need amazing footwork and the ability to defend takedowns in an energy-efficient way. I believe the style that beats Merab is one that controls space the best. You can say whatever you want about my style, but one thing's for sure. I probably have the best footwork in the division. If not, I'm way up there. I can control space and open it up better than anyone else in the division." Since Sandhagen is coming off a loss to Piotr Jan, he's not going to face Merab anytime soon. But if they do meet down the line, do you think the Sandman could take his title? Now that Islam Makhachev holds the record for the most UFC lightweight title defenses, there's been a lot of talk about who could potentially end his reign. Recently, Beneil Dariush shared his thoughts on this and sparked some debate when he said he thinks Max Holloway could be the one to push the lightweight king to his limits. Here's what he said. "You know who'd be interesting? Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway could make for a really interesting fight against Makhachev. We'll see." When asked to explain why he thought Holloway could be a challenge for Makhachev, Dariush went on. "Max is hard to hold down. He has excellent cardio and throws a lot of volume. I think those are things that could make things tough for Makhachev. Also, if you watch the fight with Merab Dvalishvili, you can see how his incredible cardio allowed him to do so much. I can't remember the last time I saw Holloway slow down in the 4th or 5th round, so I think he has something similar." It's an interesting thought because there's no doubt that Holloway is a cardio machine. He also has underrated wrestling defense and incredible boxing. But the big question is, does he have the jiu-jitsu skills to escape from underneath Makhachev and avoid getting caught in those dangerous submissions? What do you think? Could Max Holloway be the one to challenge Makhachev for the lightweight crown? Let's take a look at some of the upcoming fights that have been booked by the UFC. Marcel Dorff is reporting that featherweights Ricardo Ramos and Chase Hooper will face off at the UFC's March 1st event in Las Vegas. Ramos is coming off a split decision win over Josh Culibao after 2 losses to Julian Erosa and Charles Jourdain. On the other hand, Hooper is riding a 7-fight win streak, with his most recent victory being a unanimous decision over Damon Jackson. Dorff also reports that the March 1st event will feature bantamweights Douglas Silva de Andrade and John Castaneda going head-to-head. Silva de Andrade recently lost a decision to Miles Johns and has a 2-3 record in his last 5 fights. Castaneda, who is 3-2 in his last 5, is also looking to get back on track after a unanimous decision loss to Daniel Marcos. In another fight booked for the March 1st card, heavyweights Austin Lane and Mario Pinto will face off. Lane ended a 2-fight losing streak in October with a decision win over Rogelio de Lima after being stopped by Jonat Denise and Justin Tafa in his previous 2 fights. Pinto, making his UFC debut, earned his spot by defeating Lucas Camacho in the first round of Dana White's Contender Series. Pinto has an undefeated record, with 9 wins in his pro career. After his dominant win at UFC 311, Islam Makhachev raised some eyebrows when he mentioned possibly moving up to fight for the UFC middleweight title. While Makhachev's stock is higher than ever, not everyone is convinced he should make the jump to 185 pounds. One of his critics, former UFC fighter turned analyst Alan Juban, recently weighed in on Makhachev's comments. Juban shared his thoughts with MMA Junkie. "I don't need to see it. I'd rather see guys dominate at their weight and break records. That's when we talk about greatness. Do I take it seriously? Yeah, I think he actually believes he can do it. But has he earned it? Yeah, he set the record with 4 title defenses at lightweight." He continued, "Obviously, if Islam goes up to 185, he's aiming for a win. But if he loses, he can always say, 'So what? I'm still the lightweight champ, I still have the belt.' He's got nothing to lose. That's why I don't like these double champs. If he goes up to 170, that's one thing, but going up 2 weight classes is unreasonable. There's nothing at stake if he loses, and it puts the division on hold." Juban makes an interesting point. Not only would Makhachev be facing much larger opponents, but if he loses, his reputation wouldn't be on the line as much, given that he still holds the lightweight title. There has been a lot of debate recently regarding whether Islam Makhachev should pursue additional belts in 2 weight classes, 170 and 185 pounds. While Makhachev's stock is currently higher than ever after his dominant lightweight run, some fans are divided on whether it's a good idea for him to move up. On one hand, his ambition to create history and potentially win titles in multiple divisions is appealing, but others question if it's too much, too soon. The challenge of moving up to both welterweight and middleweight, facing much larger opponents, could be seen as an unnecessary risk. Many feel it's important for fighters to continue dominating in their natural weight class before taking on such challenges. The MMA community remains split, with some hoping he takes the leap and others urging him to focus on defending his lightweight title. Usman Nurmagomedov remains the Bellator lightweight champion after a hard-fought majority decision victory over Paul Hughes at the latest PFL event in Dubai. As expected, Nurmagomedov retained his undefeated record, but what many didn't expect was how competitive Hughes would make the fight. The bout went the full 5 rounds, with Nurmagomedov winning by majority decision with the scores of 47-47, 48-46, and 48-46. However, it's important to note that Nurmagomedov had a point deducted in round 3 for multiple low kicks, which led some fans to feel that Hughes had been wronged. Despite the loss, Hughes strongly disagreed with the decision, calling it a robbery and even called for a rematch. The thrilling contest has already been deemed a Fight of the Year contender, sparking plenty of reactions across social media. Fighters and analysts like Dustin Poirier and Dylan Dennis expressed their belief that Hughes was unfairly judged. Poirier praised Hughes' abilities, calling him legit and highlighting his impressive fight. Dennis, along with several others, believed that the judges had made a mistake and that Hughes had deserved the win. On the other hand, some commentators like Aaron Bronstad defended the judges, noting that while the fight was close, competitive rounds can go either way, and it's not the judges' responsibility to ensure even distribution of wins. A variety of fighters weighed in, including Bilal Muhammad, who took the opportunity to praise Khabib Nurmagomedov as the GOAT in response to his cousin Usman's performance. Corey Anderson also celebrated the fight, calling it exactly what the PFL needed to boost their presence in MMA. Others, like Chris Daukaus, called it an absolutely great championship bout. Meanwhile, Jake Paul added his own spin, playing on the rivalry between Dagestan and Ireland, commending Hughes for what he did, regardless of the outcome. Finally, Luke Thomas suggested the PFL should take up Hughes' call for a rematch in Belfast, adding more fuel to the growing interest in a potential second showdown. The reactions to the Usmanov vs. Paul Hughes fight keep pouring in, and none were more vocal than Conor McGregor's. McGregor expressed his admiration for Hughes, calling it a tremendous fight and performance, stating that Hughes had dominated the fight. McGregor didn't hold back when discussing Nurmagomedov's approach, calling him exactly what it says on the tin: a runner, sprinter, bolter, scurrying fighter. He went even further, saying, "They are the most non-fighting fighters out of Dagestan in all time, running around the cage." McGregor's comments sparked debate, with many in the MMA community divided over his bold statements. After the fight, Paul Hughes took to social media, breaking his silence on the decision, explaining that he felt he had won the fight. In a video, Hughes said he would have to watch the fight back with a clearer mind, but from his perspective and the energy in the arena, he believed it was his. While acknowledging the close scorecards, Hughes admitted he could have pushed harder in certain moments, but would come back stronger in the future. Reflecting on the fourth round, he felt a head clash changed the momentum of the fight, despite it being an accidental clash. Hughes expressed his disappointment, but also pride in his performance, stating that he would get that belt soon. Khabib Nurmagomedov sent a message to Hughes after the fight, thanking him for the experience and inviting him to Dagestan whenever he wished, offering the opportunity to meet his family and team. Hughes replied, expressing his respect for Khabib and his team, and even promised to take Khabib up on his offer in the future, after getting the chance to rematch Usmanov. Hughes also extended an invitation to Khabib and his team to visit Ireland when the time was right. In a surprising turn of events, Cody Hayden was forced to pull out of his highly anticipated fight against Alex Pereira at UFC 312 due to an injury. This marks another unfortunate setback for Hayden, who has been plagued by injuries in recent years. However, the UFC wasted no time in rebooking the fight, offering Colby Thickness the opportunity to step in on short notice. The interesting twist here is that Thickness has been Tapiria's sparring partner and training associate, making for an intriguing matchup. Benny P., an Australian MMA reporter, confirmed the rumors, further fueling the anticipation for this fight. What do you think of these recent developments in the MMA world? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on everything happening in the MMA community.